I think it's a huge opportunity for strategy and also for Strive if SATA also holds up for those two companies to continue to accumulate Bitcoin aggressively, even if we see even lower Bitcoin prices, right? And this would be a significant change to the last bear market, where strategy they survived, but also they were not able to really take advantage of those super low Bitcoin prices and accumulate a lot at the lows, right? And this might be different this time around if we see Bitcoin crashing, but STRC keeping its peg. It would mean that they can just scoop up Bitcoin at very low prices.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Chair. None of what you will hear is financial advice, and this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I hope you're all hanging in there, given the current market situation here. We'll start this show with the buys of MSTR, as always. Strategy has again purchased Bitcoin and announced it today, Monday. So they raised 106 million with issuing common stock at the market, $106 million. And with that, they have bought 75 million worth of Bitcoin. 855 Bitcoin they bought at an average price of $87,000. So that's last week's prices, a lot higher than the Bitcoin price today. But nonetheless, almost, again, 1,000 Bitcoin taken off the market here. And another interesting aspect here, the remaining 31 million that they raised, they used to pay the dividends on STRC that were due now on the last day of the month. So nice to see strategy continuing to buy Bitcoin, but also being able to raise again common stock to pay the dividends on their preferreds, and this means that their USD reserve remains intact. They don't have to draw down on it, and they're still able to raise a significant amount of funds to buy Bitcoin at depressed prices, but also to pay the dividends. So I think given the market environment, it's quite interesting to see that they're still able to do that, even though prices all around are crashing on their stock, but on Bitcoin as well. So I think that's the good news in the big picture of things here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great to see that they're still buying despite the price action of Bitcoin, and obviously the stock as well suffering from it. The preferreds as well, everything suffering from the Bitcoin crash. But STRC holding well. Obviously, we saw strategy now raised the dividend rate to 11.25%. Kind of makes sense considering what was happening already late last week in the market. STRC was depegging, and we had this crash over the weekend of Bitcoin, which kind of forced their hands to really do something on STRC. And today we're seeing, despite the price action, that STRC is holding quite well above 99.2 as we speak right now. So obviously not great in the grand scheme of things with Bitcoin price action. But looking at the details of Stretch specifically, so we talked about this new flywheel that is now enhanced compared to the previous one, with their previous one being the one with the convertible bonds, and now the new one being the one with the STRC. This new flywheel is so much more powerful now that they're able to at least have one lever to be able to keep it rolling, even though it's not as strong as it could be with obviously the Bitcoin price being at a higher levels.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see going into the ex-dividend date, mid of the month, if STRC trades back to par and allows strategy to issue STRC, because now it would be a great time, right, to be able to again issue millions or hundreds of million a week and pick up Bitcoin below $80,000. That would be amazing, right? And currently they're not able to do that because it depegged. Even with the dividend rate increase, we're still around 99. So let's see how that goes. But that would be a great thing. And I think it's already a good sign compared to the last crash we had in November, right? When Bitcoin was actually, it crashed, but it stayed higher than it is today, right? It crashed to 80 and then recovered quite quickly from there. We went down to 75K over the weekend, and still STRC open now, it's staying at 99. So compared to the 91 it went to in the last crash. So we're seeing a lot more stability. And most likely it will trade back up to par quicker than last time around, and allow strategy to issue more at the market and pick up Bitcoin at a depressed price here.
Strategy is in a great position, I think, or should be in a great position soon to be able to start accumulating again, assuming STRC goes back to par. And maybe here we can already start showing some numbers on the volumes on the preferreds. So here, looking at the chart from Jackson Fairbanks, despite having a bad week last week, the preferreds have had a much better volume in general, going up by 31%, more or less. And you see the volumes that especially the strategy preferreds are doing, and again, especially STRC, in my mind, is quite positive.
Yeah, and it's across the board, right? We also see Strife and STRD and STRK. All of them have volumes picking up week over week, and it's actually a record week overall in terms of volumes for the preferred. So really picking up here, even though we're in this downtrend. So this is good to see. And just going back to STRC, we saw the dividend rate increase, as you mentioned, over the weekend. What are your thoughts on the price sensitivity of STRC on those interest rates? Do you think it makes a big difference now that they increased by 25 basis points? Do you think it would be trading right up to par if they increased by half a percentage point? Or I have difficulties feeling what exactly the market, what value the market gives to those increases.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and probably I don't have the full answer, but my thoughts here are that whether they would have increased by 25 or 50 bips, it wouldn't have changed. So going with the 25 bips is probably the better way to do it, because at the end, I think it's again a little bit more of a narrative play, in the sense that strategy should show the market that they're doing something, and they don't need to go full 50, 75 bips despite the price action. I think just showing that the 25 bips increase is sufficient to the investors to show, hey, we're willing to do this in order to get STRC back to par, as we were mandated to do. The action in itself is what matters, in my opinion, more than the actual rate or the actual amount increase.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think it's a discussion that's also ongoing on X. You see a few people suggesting that strategy goes more aggressive, right, and then is able to bring it back to par quicker and issue millions or hundreds of millions a week. But I'm not sure that would happen, as you mentioned. And I think then it would rather be a negative if they increase by 50 or 75 basis points and it still doesn't trade back up to par. Then they start having dividend obligations that are higher and higher, and it might turn out then that the market expects increases every month, right? And at some point they would have to take it back down, and maybe that's also then a narrative shift or seen as a negative if then it's expected to go down every month. So yeah, I think it's better that they're careful and increasing because they have to. I think it makes sense that they do because we're below par and they need to bring it back up. But I tend to agree that going too aggressively, I'm not sure it would make a big difference in the price. It's already better than most instruments out there, right? It's 7% over the risk-free rate. And I don't think 11 or 11.5 makes a big difference at the end of the day.
And considering that we're at the early stages of these instruments, I think it makes sense to have these types of increases. But probably over time they won't even need to do anything, even if price of Bitcoin goes down in general. So yeah, probably it's still the early phases where we have to talk about dividend rate increases, but hopefully in the near future we won't have to, right? Just going back to the sentiment in general on X and what I see online is we're all now seeing again all those bears and all these myths about how Sailor could be liquidated again or will be liquidated. I think it doesn't make too much sense to spend a lot of time, because probably the audience following this or following our show now knows that there is no real liquidation price on strategy as of right now. Obviously, if Bitcoin stays, I think, under 25,000 US dollars until 2028, when the first convertible bonds are due, then they might get into trouble. And even then, probably not, because they have this USD reserve as of right now. So I don't know if it's worth mentioning anything here.
Yeah, I think what's interesting right now is that Bitcoin is trading around the average purchase price of strategy, right? Their overall Bitcoin holdings, that they have an average purchase price of around $76,000, and that's where Bitcoin traded over the weekend, right? And that's where the myths or the misconceptions happen, right? On X from certain accounts, even big accounts, unfortunately, that say that Bitcoin that strategy will be liquidated if we surpass if Bitcoin falls below this number. But of course that's not the case. It's just their average purchase price. It just means that they're underwater overall on their Bitcoin purchases if we're below 76K, but there's no liquidation risk. So and maybe it's I don't know if it will change anything on the narrative, but let's say Bitcoin drops well below those 76, we trade to 70, 65, and everybody sees strategy is still there and fine. Maybe those rumors will end, but I don't know if that would change anything on the perception or price, because I think people saying that are very misinformed anyway, so not sure that would change their mind.
So I think that's all we had for you today on strategy. Quentin, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the market is really bad right now. Bitcoin going down significantly again over the weekend. We're almost at the lows of last April, and if they get lost, maybe we see more downside. Who knows? But yeah, I think for me right now, the most interesting or the biggest thing to watch is STRC. And again, as mentioned before, I think it's a huge opportunity for strategy and also for Strive if SATA also holds up for those two companies to continue to accumulate Bitcoin aggressively, even if we see even lower Bitcoin prices, right? And this would be a significant change to the last bear market, where strategy they survived, but also they were not able to really take advantage of those super low Bitcoin prices and accumulate a lot at the lows, right? And this might be different this time around if we see Bitcoin crashing, but STRC keeping its peg. It would mean that they can just scoop up Bitcoin at very low prices. And even if we have a downtrend that continues or a prolonged period of depressed Bitcoin prices, if you then zoom out and look out in the long run, this will have been a great time for strategy and Strive to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So that's what I'm watching right now, is how does STRC and how does SATA do in the next weeks here.
Yeah, I think those are obviously some of the key points to look at when looking at the whole Bitcoin landscape. But there's also, I think, a lot of things moving around on other Bitcoin treasuries and also other institutionals. I'm sure a lot of them are picking up a buttload of Bitcoin at these prices. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long did the prices stay as they are, if we have an actual prolonged bear market. Looking also at the macro in general, again, I think we've mentioned it many times in here. It just still looks very bullish in general for Bitcoin and other assets in general. despite what's going on right now. I think we just need to be a little bit more patient and see what happens in the coming weeks and months. And maybe just one last mention from my side. Quick reminder that we will be in Vegas for Strategy World from the 23rd to the 26th of February. So if you're going there, make sure to say hi. Thanks a lot for listening, and see you on the next one.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next time.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?